Okay. So let me share my screen. Here we go. So today we are working on the next step of analyzing data, which is presenting our beautiful results. Okay. And we'll use this as a chance to learn more about building and testing models also. So I'm going to go into data course Zon. This up. I'll make the text a bit bigger. Okay. So I'm going to do things a bit differently now. Instead of an R script like we've been doing with Control-Shift-N, where it gives us a nice little area to type, I am going to say File, New File, and I'm going to go over to R Markdown. Okay. So I want you to do that. I want you to start a new Markdown file. Okay. So you can give this whatever title, first Markdown name, and then make sure that HTML is clicked. PDF is actually a real pain in the butt. Okay, so HTML, then hit OK, and it's gonna come with some stuff.
Wait.
Already in there.
Can you do that again, please?
Yep. File. New file. R Markdown.
Okay.
Give it a title. Make sure HTML is checked there. We're making a document, and then just hit OK.
Okay. I don't get that. I don't. In my computer, it just creates the Markdown file. I don't get to choose the parameters or.
Okay. That's fine. You do have to set up quite a bit of stuff in order to have it generate a PDF. And so if you don't have that set up, maybe that's why you're not getting the choice. Okay. Does it say here HTML document as your output at the top?
No, it just goes to the untitled.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. In that case, go ahead and type this line in between these two little 3-bar things. You don't have to have an author or date or anything, but you do want this line right there, HTML document. Output : space HTML document. Did anyone else not have that come up?
It says what? It says error. Output not found.
Oh yeah, you don't need to run it. Don't run it. That's okay. All right. So,
A blank page. It's just blank.
Wow. And you're sure you did new Markdown file?
Yeah. File.
Okay.
New file. Markdown.
Anyone else who sees what I've got here instead of a blank?
Mine's there.
Okay.
I see that.
I do.
Yep.
Well,
Okay, Ernie, I'm gonna have you share your screen. And
I think I figured it out. I think I did because there are 2 markdowns when you do file new file. I think I clicked markdown markdown instead of markdown file.
Okay.
Or the other way.
Yeah.
I got it.
All right. All right, so yeah, you should see this. Now, a Markdown file is text and your plots and everything just all integrated. So we're basically making like an HTML. So this can be opened by any web browser. I'm going to hit Control-Shift-K, but it's the same thing as this little knit button right here. Okay. Control-Shift-K, and it's going to say, oh, you want to save this? Yeah. first markdown dot RMD. It should actually do that on its own. The .rmd is a file extension for R Markdown. And save. And then it's going to do what's called knitting. It's turning this wall of text into an HTML. All right, give me a digital hand if Control-Shift-K worked for you and you got this HTML.
Quick question. What file are we in?
I'm just in my data courses on, and I didn't really. It's not a file. It's just I created a new Markdown file.
Okay.
So just a couple of you left. I am going to shrink this down a bit. Get these side by side. All right, Alex and Emily, I don't see hands for you.
What's the keystroke for
Control-Shift-K. Or you can go up here to this little like ball of yarn and click on them.
the ball of yarn worked?
Okay.
I'm there.
Cool. All right. Anyone else having trouble with that? All right. So on the left, we've got our Markdown document. On the right is the knitted HTML. And so let's look through here. In these little bars here, that's kind of like the setup for your document. Okay. Title, first Markdown, and there it is. All right. Author's on, date. Okay. Then there's this little chunk right here. Our setup include equals false. That include equals false means it's not going to show up in our final document, so we don't see that. It's running that code in the background. When you hit Control-Shift-K or click on the ball of yarn, it knits this all together. It runs every line of code that you have in order and uses it to build this thing. So here we've got two hashtags and then R Markdown. That shows up right there. Then we've got some documentation, some words. They pop up. Okay, they made this into a nice little hyperlink that we can actually click on. Okay. And then we go down here, and there's another little kind of grayed out section. Okay. Summary, cars. What did it do in our document?
It gave the output of the summary for cars.
Yep. It actually showed our input too. So it shows the code we ran by default and then the output. Okay, so we can integrate the results of our code into our document. What this means is that our document itself, our final report, is fully reproducible. So we do our analysis like this in our Markdown document, and then we hit Control-Shift-K, and boom, our report is generated. Okay. So here, we did a little plot, and the plot turned up also. Okay. They said echo equals false, meaning that our code didn't show. It doesn't show plot pressure right here, but it actually ran it. Okay, so we can change the way that these little chunks of code behave by giving them little flags like include equals false or echo equals false, that kind of stuff. Okay, and so then it tells you the echo equals false parameter was added to prevent it from generating the code, but it will show the plot. So let's play with this and make our own. Oh dear, I can't seem There we go. Okay. Let's make our own little document. So I'm just gonna all this stuff. Whoops. I'm gonna save the stuff up through line 10 and delete the rest. Okay. So we want to include a nice little chunk of code. So we can go up here to the top and say insert, and it's going to give you a list. I don't think you're going to have all the same options on yours. I think you have to be using a Linux computer to get the bash. I'm not confirmed on that. Ernie, I see your hand.
I have Bash.
I have
You
that
got-
issue.
That's two on a Mac.
I have Mac.
Cool. How about Windows people?
I have Bash.
Awesome.
I have Bash as well.
Yee-hee! Great. So we can actually incorporate some of our command line code in there also, but by and far the most common one we're going to be using, since it's a class in R, is R. So I'm just going to click on that, and it just spit out this for me. I could also type that manually if I wanted. I can just do 3 little backticks. Back, back, back. Back, back, back. Oh, I forgot. I have to tell it the language. Yeah, R. Okay. So what's happening here is we're telling our little R markdown that the stuff in between this line and this line is code, and it's R code, so it should be interpreted by the R software. Okay. So let's do some other stuff up here. I'm going to say data empty cars. I'm going to say library tidyverse, library modeler. That should do it. I'm going to go ahead and control enter on each of those 3 lines. And look what it did. It spit out the results in a little like window for me within my code. So I can kind of like get a preview of what things are going to look like when they get transferred over to my document. If that gets annoying, which it does to me pretty quick, you can just click the X. All right. So now we've got empty cars in memory. We've got tidyverse and model R loaded, and so we can do stuff. So let's say summary empty cars. Well, that's what we're going to get in our document right there. Okay. I'll leave that for now. And I'll say, here's a summary of empty cars, right? So you can incorporate your text, your background information, your methods, conclusions, explanations for figures. That can all be incorporated here. Anything that's outside of the little code chunks is going to just be interpreted as text. Anything in the code chunks will be run, and it's going to be run in order. All right, so there's our summary of empty cars. Here's a plot of miles per gallon as a function of horsepower. So sure enough, I just do my code for the plot here. ggplot empty cars. My aesthetics, x equals HP, y equals mpg, plus geom point, plus geom smooth. Method equals linear model. All right. So make yourself a little plot in there, and let's hit Control-Shift-K again, or click on that ball of yarn. That's going to save your file and turn it into an HTML.
Is Control-Shift what?
K for knit. Yeah. Okay. So that's pretty neat. Let's change some things about this though. I don't like that it's giving me this little message that gets in the way of my story. I'm trying to make a professional looking report here. And for that matter, I don't like that it's showing the code either. So I'm going to come back in here, put a comma, and look at all the different things I can change about how this is displayed. Bunches. Okay. First one I'm going to say is message equals false. That should get rid of this message. Okay. Another one you can say is warning equals false. So that won't display any warnings that you get that R usually spits out and we ignore. Okay. That's not going to wind up in your report. I can say fig align. Let's do a center alignment for our figure. I can do another comma here, and I could say fig width equals 3. Fig height equals 2. All right, again, Control-Shift-K. We'll knit the whole document. Let's see how that changed things. Okay, we didn't get our little message here. We made our picture align to the center and smaller. Okay, so we can really kind of custom generate how things are displayed in here. Okay, what about text? Let's take a look at some things. Note that the hashtag doesn't mean comment now. It changes the meaning. When I knit this, let's see what it does. All right, what's the hashtag do?
It gives back headings.
Yeah, it's different heading sizes. Okay, so we can change the size of the text. That's what's happening up here, right? With Zon and 1026 2020 and first markdown. Okay, it's interpreting those as the main biggest heading. So that's one hashtag gives you the big heading, and then the more you put, the smaller it gets. Okay. Bold and italic are done that way. Okay. And note that it put them on the same line. This is something I always forget, and I have to go back and fix. Okay. Spaces and lines just denote new sections of your HTML. So if I knit this again with a bunch of spaces between them, it's not actually, it's not actually going to show a ton of those spaces. It's just going to put it on the next section. Okay, so you can have lots of space between of text, and it'll just show up as one new line. All right, let's see what kind of stuff can be done here.
Quick question or comment.
Yeah.
When I did Control-Shift-K on the text, the hashtags, it just showed up all in one line, text, 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 all the same size.
So put a space between them.
Okay.
Like that.
I have a question too.
Yeah.
When I just did exactly what you have there. That's in orange, and it's giving me. It says error. Attempt to use zero length variable name. I was gonna see if you knew what that meant.
Show me your screen. I'm betting there's a misspelling.
Okay. Can you see that there?
Yeah. Message equals false, warning equals false, fig line equals center, fig width equals 3, fig height equals 2. Okay. Zero length variable name method equals. Can anyone find the problem here?
So I ran into the same problem as well when I tried doing the keystroke instead of the knit ball, and then when I pressed the knit ball, it worked fine. So I don't know what the
try that
problem
then.
is,
See.
but
Okay.
Same problem?
Like, no, I think that worked. I think that got out of it. Okay.
Okay, I do see that popping up in your little error messages there. So, but you did get an HTML out the other side?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Well, that's weird. What might be happening is that maybe, let's look at global options here. R markdown. Okay, show output inline, enable chunk background highlight. Show output preview in window. Okay, here it is. Evaluate chunks in directory. Make sure that's set to document.
Okay, how did you get to that again?
This is our old friend Tools, Global Options,
Okay.
and then R Markdown. So you want to make sure that evaluate chunks in directory is set to document, and then both of these are checked. That might be what was going weird.
Mine is already doing that.
Already, okay.
Yeah.
I don't know what the issue there is.
Okay.
We'll figure it out. But if it's working, hey, great.
Yeah. I think it worked. The error did pop up in
Yeah.
our studio, but I think it worked in the HTML. So.
Okay. All right. So let's see here. Oh yeah. So if we go to our little course website, I've got a link to the Markdown Live preview generator. And so this is pretty handy. It can kind of show you what things are going to look like over here. Okay. So let's add some code here. All right. So we've got some text and it pops up bold. We've got some other stuff and it pops up italic. Okay. Let's see, if we want to make a link, we wrap the whole thing in square brackets and then put our link in regular parentheses. And you can see it pops up as a link here. If I click that, well, this isn't letting me, but that'll take you to Google. Okay. All right, questions about what this is. We can get more into the weeds about how to make things look, but I don't want to lose anybody on what a markdown document is or what it's for. So give you a second to compose any questions you have. Nothing? All right.
Hey, I have a question. My
Yeah.
in my HTML, the hashtags don't seem to work.
Do you put a space after them?
Oh, I just realized that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so mine still aren't working. It's taking all the
Got
stuff below it and considering it as just the hashtag text. It's like it's taking everything, even with spaces below it, and making it all the same size and putting it on
All
the
right.
same line.
Show me your screen.
Okay. Okay. This up here. All right. So,
Oh, put a space after the hashtags.
oh, not a space in between the text, a space in between the hashtags.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the hashtags need a space after them for it to interpret it as a header. Okay. So let's see here. R Markdown cheat sheet. Boom. Okay. This is super handy, and it kind of shows you some of the stuff that you can do here. Okay. So here's, let me zoom in on this a bit. The syntax here on the left and what it looks like on the right. Okay. So if you want to incorporate an image, you do that, and then it shows your image as long as it's in the same path that you're working in. Okay. So if you want a little horizontal line break, you put 3 stars. Okay. If you want a little M dash or a longer M dash, you put 2 or 3 hyphens. Okay. Ellipses get translated into an ellipsis character. You can make lists like this: star space thing, star space thing, tab plus space thing, and it shows a list like that. Or you can do them numbered, and then here's how you make a table. Okay, so it's just a matter of learning all the different little tricks for how things will look in the output. But for almost everything, there's a way to get it to render as an HTML correctly. Okay, so this little cheat sheet is nice, and it gives you some of the common evaluation options for each thing. So eval is true by default. Okay, echo is true, so you can display the code along with its results. That's one thing I'd like to change in here, because I don't like my code being there for the plot. So I'm going to go in, I'm going to add yet another thing. Echo equals false. So I knit this again, and it should hide that code but still run it. Yep, so there it did. Okay. So your final projects are going to be written in R Markdown like this, where you're basically writing like a scientific report in essence. I want some background information, maybe some nice pictures, okay, and then your results. You don't have to show me the code that you ran, okay? It's fine if you hide all the code and just basically make a report. What's nice about this is that if something changes, like you get new data, or you forgot to include some data and you need to redo your report and all your figures, you just open your Markdown and knit it with your new data, and it generates your report for you. Okay, so it's fully reproducible in that way. Ernie, yeah.
How do you omit the code?
Echo equals false.
Oh, echo equals false. Okay, thanks.
Yeah. So to get a list of all the things you can do, just go to the R right there, hit a comma, and it'll give you all your options in a little pull-down menu. Okay. Not helpfully, it doesn't show you what they do, so you may wind up Googling some of these, but there you have it. Okay. So let's see here. Echo equals false. You can have code that's not evaluated, so you can say include equals false. Okay, like that. If you click on this little chunk option, this little gear for each little chunk, you can basically tell it like show nothing, don't run code, show nothing but run the code, show code and the output, or show output only, and it will basically automatically generate those little bits for you. So show output only, you see that it just spit out echo equals false. Okay. So that's how we're going to generate a report. Ernie, did you still have a question? Or is that hand up from?
No, that's from the last.
Okay. All right. So let me show you an example of, this is expert level, so don't get too intimidated, but this is a markdown project. Okay. So you can see this is Chris Wall's project. This is an R project that he made. He's got his own little data directory structure here with the data, figures, output. Okay. And then here's his RMD file. So that RMD file is his report. And here's all the code for it. So he gives it a title, list of authors, the date, tells it some fancy stuff, code folding, etc. Has it generate a PDF as well. Then has a little setup section, just like we had. So here's our setup chunk. He loads all of his packages that he's going to be using in there, so it doesn't show up in the final report. And then, boom, right into the project background. So this is about coral reefs. Okay. You can see that this all turns up on one line. That's okay. You can wrap yours. That's fine. But let's take a look at this report. Here it is. Okay, so we've got our nice little title, the authors, date, and then project background. And then here's a figure of the little sites where he collected corals. Okay. He's got a nice figure caption, nice picture of Montipora, the coral that he was studying, and then goes right into what they did. Okay, so he's describing his data set, looking at temperature over time. Talks about the models that he built. Got his output. Okay. Here he's got his ANOVA tables. So that's the statistical test he was running. Okay. So those are just built right into the report. Now what he's done here that I really love, and this is nice and fancy, is that he's got a little button for code. So he's hidden his code, but given you, the reader, the option to look at it. So I can click on that, and it shows the actual R code that was run to generate, holy crap, those figures. Right? Here's the code for that plot. Okay. Here's the code for sea level correction, where he was correcting his data for the sea levels. The code to generate those plots. A lot of work, right? Okay. Since you're not probably doing a study from scratch with data collection and methods and all that, your report's going to be shorter than this. Okay, but this is what I'm looking for in essence. I want background on what the project's about. I want your figures and pictures incorporated into it in a nice little HTML. Okay. All of your little homework assignments are essentially the same thing. So GitHub, my repositories. All right, so the course website that we use, this right here, was also generated as an R Markdown document. And here it is. So this is our course website. Or that's not the course website. Course website is in data course. So there's the Markdown document. So if you want to take a look at that, you can just go into my GitHub repository, and basically our whole course is on there. Okay, so you can see how I'm doing stuff. I actually had to use a bit of HTML I don't know HTML, but I know how to Google, and so I just copied and pasted people's HTML to change the background color, basically, or to add some pictures on the right, that kind of thing. Here's the link to the video from week 1. All right. So posted it on YouTube, copied that link, stuck it in here, and then did a git push, and boom, the website's updated. Okay. So all of the assignments are the same thing. So here's assignment 1. I generated it into a PDF or an HTML for you. Okay. But it was written as a markdown. Okay. Questions so far?
I have one if no one else does.
Go for it.
It's more regarding the logistics of when you do your git push, you're really only changing the code that's present on your GitHub, right? So what runs the code to present the HTML? Is it my computer when I load that?
No, it's actually me. So let me show you.
Yeah.
Just if you're curious, I'm gonna open a project in a new session so I won't lose this one we're currently working on. Okay. Data course, Git repositories, and then I have a GitHub repository called gzon.github.io. If you make a Git repository with your username.github.io, it's a website. Okay, GitHub will actually host that for you. So I'm going to open up my website project, and I'll make a change to the website. So first up, I'm going to go into data course and open up index.rmd. So if you go to gzon.github.io/datacourse, this is the website that'll be displayed. So I open that. I'm going to go up to the top of the website. Right after intro to data analysis, I'm just going to say blah, blah, blah. Now, I hit Control-Shift-K and knit this. So my RStudio is turning it into an HTML. And here it is. We've now got blah, blah, blah on there. Okay. I go over to Git, and I notice that there's an index.rmd and an index.html. So I click on both of those. I commit them. Give it a little message called blah. It shows me what I've changed. Commit, push, username. So I push it to GitHub. That's done. Okay. Now, there's a bit of a delay. But if we go up here and just refresh the page, it's like 30 seconds or so, maybe a minute. It'll show up there. Okay. So making a website like this isn't actually that difficult if you can use RStudio and R Markdown, and I can show you that if we have time towards the end of the course, because it's a nice way of like getting yourself a little web presence, maybe even showcasing some of your work for grad school applications or potential employers, that kind of thing. This is just my like professional website. Home, about me, my lab, recent papers, and then teaching. It's got my courses on here. Okay. All of that just done with R Markdown. Now, this particular Markdown document is super badass, right? There's a lot of work that went into this, but it is a full scientific paper in essence, right? This actually was published. It's a published paper. But what's really nice is that you can use other people's examples like this and kind of look to see what they did. This is the quintessential, like, ideal of reproducible science, okay? He didn't just publish his paper in the ISME journal, he also provided everything that went into it. So I can look at his data, his raw data, see exactly how it got turned into these figures, these reports, his ANOVA tables, right? It's all just nice and incorporated like that, like that. Where are they? Yeah, here they are. So if I have questions about this, as a scientist, I'd say, well, how did you get this? Did you do that correctly? Well, boom, there's the code. Here's his model. Okay. And he says, oh, no location effect. Sure enough, showing up, there's no location effect. Okay. Chris Wall, the author of this, has kindly agreed to join us on Wednesday for a question and answer session about reproducible science and making markdown documents. So I would like you, where are we, week 11, to look at this. I've got a link for you right there. And come up with questions so when he joins us, we're not just sitting around with blank screens staring into the abyss, right? This is a good opportunity to talk to somebody who's like top of his game in generating reproducible science. So take advantage of that. You'll definitely want to show up Wednesday and have questions for him. Okay. Let's look more about this report here. Let's try to turn this into like a real thing. Okay. So we're looking at that. We would like to model the effect of various factors on miles per gallon. So let's start with a simple model where horsepower is the only predictor. Okay, so let's do that. I put 3 little backticks and then in curly brackets an R, and I say echo equals false. Okay. And then I put another 3 little backticks here to close off that little bit of code. So we'll call that mod 1, and we're going to say that's a generalized linear model. Our data is empty cars. Our formula is, what is it? Somebody tell me.
Miles per gallon.
MPG
MPG
as a function of
HP. Yep, per horsepower. Okay. Let's do a second model. Mod 2. I'm just going to copy that, paste it in there, and I'm going to change a little thing here. I'm going to say poly HP, comma 2. We built 2 versions of the model. The first is linear. The second is, who can tell me?
polynomial.
It's a second order polynomial. both using horsepower as the only predictor. Let's make a plot. Okay, so now it's time to plot. I'm gonna plonk R echo equals false. I don't want this code cluttering up my report here. Okay, so we've got our two models there. I'm gonna say gather predictions from our model R package. MT cars is the data set we're using, and the two models to make predictions is mod 1 and mod 2. And then I'm going to pipe that right into our old buddy ggplot. Okay, where our aesthetics, x equals horsepower, y equals mpg. And I'm going to add a geom point. I'm going to make the size 3 and the transparency alpha 0.25. And I'm going to add some other points. So a second call to geom point. I don't know why it's giving me this little error. Unexpected end of document. No, I don't think so. We'll see what happens here. Aesthetic. For this one, I want the Y aesthetic to be my predictions. And I want the color to be based on the model. Okay. Let's take a look at that. If I hit Control Enter in here, it's going to give me an error. What's wrong?
Do you have to run the stuff above it first?
Yeah, I do. So when you're doing that, it's kind of a pretty common mistake. You'll run code out of order while you're making this document. You're Control Entering in there to kind of see what happens. And you forgot that you didn't run this stuff. So I'm just going to highlight those and Control Enter. Okay, so now you can see they're popping up on the right side here. Okay, so now I can do that. And it's made a little plot for me. I'm going to add something to that plot. Geom smooth, and I'm going to give it the same aesthetics as my point. Run that again. Okay. So that's pretty neat. That lets us fit non-straight line curves. Okay. This is sort of functionally equivalent, this poly HP2, to going into Excel and you pick the best fit line. Which one do you want? Okay. Do you want a cubic formula? That would be poly 3. Okay. So that lets us add in some potential to curve, essentially. Okay, so we're plotting that. I'm going to go ahead and clear that out. And let's add some new text here. Which model is the best fit? Let's look at the root mean square of error. Backtick, backtick, backtick. R, I'm going to include this code. I'll just leave it as is. Okay, so we want the residuals of mod 1. We want to square those. And we want the mean squared value of those. copy that line, paste it here, and change mod 1 to mod 2. I'm just going to knit all of this right now. Control-Shift-K. Let's see what our document looks like. Well, that's still pretty ugly. I'll probably pull that out. So here's miles per gallon as a function of horsepower, where we'd like to model. Here's our plot. Oops. What would I do to not have this highlighted line?
Just echo equals false.
I've got echo equals false in it. What I could do is message equals false. Now I'll reknit. There, and I got rid of it. Okay, so here's our two models. Which one of them is the better fit?
Mod 2.
Yep, it's got a smaller error term. Okay. We can just keep doing this, adding little chunks of code and adding explanations for them. Okay. Mod 1. Oh yeah. Mod 2. Okay. Interesting. Not interesting enough to include.
Sorry to interrupt, but how do you read that ANOVA table?
I'm not really sure. I'm used to it spitting out a p-value for me.
Yeah, because I was doing one yesterday and there was no p-value. But
I'll have to look that up. Because I honestly have no idea. Whoa. That was my dog. She's growling.
Oh.
Damn, lately. All right. So hopefully you can see how handy a Markdown document is. You can auto-generate all your reports this way. Just build in your code right into the report you're trying to write. Okay. Let's look a bit more at how to fit these weird models, because that's what I'm going to have you do for this assignment. Let's take a look here. Assignment 9. Okay, so you're going to be looking at grad school admissions. We saw that a little bit previously, where 1 is success, 0 is failure. And I want you to explore that data set and make an HTML report. Okay. Another one you're going to be looking at is the mushroom data. Okay. But let's just use empty cars here to kind of get a feel for how to change our model. Okay. There's a few things we can do. We can, within a ggplot, where our data is empty cars, our aesthetics are x equals horsepower, y equals miles per gallon. 1 second, I'm gonna let my dogs out. Come on, you maniacs. Get out of here. All right. So there's our x and y, and we can say geom smooth like usual. We can say method equals lm and just take a look at that little plot here. That's what we're looking at. Nice straight line. There's another thing we can do inside of geom smooth. All right, we can give it a formula. And this wants x and y. So we say y as a function. By default, it's y as a function of x. But we can do poly x3. Run that, take a look at it. Okay, so it's still running a linear model, but it's a different formula for that line. So we can tell ggplot, at least geom_smooth, we can tell it how to calculate the smoothing line function. Okay, the default formula is this low s curve. Okay, so that's often why we set method equals linear model to force it to do a straight line for us to see stuff. Let's see, there's library splines. So we can do natural splines if we don't want to use these polynomial functions. And it fits it slightly differently. All right, so the math is really up for grabs. All right, R being a statistics language has all kinds of stuff built in. We're at least one package away from you. Okay. So that's how you fit a curve if you want to. Looking at the model summary for these, though, summary mod 1. That's nice and straightforward. That's what we're used to seeing with our nice linear model. It's easy to interpret that. But summary of mod 2, interpretation becomes a bit of a challenge because you've got the different orders of your polynomial function having different effects. Okay. So it's not as straightforward to get an equation for this line necessarily in numeric terms, but here is the equation for your line. Okay, it's just a bit more difficult to interpret stuff. Okay. But it does help us get better predictions sometimes. Okay, other questions about models or Markdown, anything like that? I'd like you to get a start on assignment 9 before we meet with Dr. Wall on Wednesday, just so you have a better feel for what goes on in a Markdown document, and that'll help you come up with useful questions to ask him. But in the meantime, until he joins us, I'll try to answer any questions you have. Nobody?
No.
No? Okay.
Okay.
Well, we got it. Okay.
In regards to like styling and like making the HTML page look good, what resources do you recommend?
The way I learned, and I'm by no means good at making HTML pages look good, but the way I learned was by basically looking at other HTML pages that were generated through Markdown code. Looking at the page, I just had two separate windows, like let's see the HTML output and then look at the code that generated it. And so I noticed a few things that were interesting. For example, I didn't know that you could have these little code hide buttons, but looking in here, where are they? I think it's this line right there, code folding hide. Right, so I may take that and like try that in my own document and see what happens eventually.
Oh, okay. What if you know HTML? How can you use that?
Oh, it just fits right in. So you can put in HTML code here. So simple one, we can just do a little line break, right? Paste a few line breaks in and then some more text. knit that.
Oh,
So
okay. It works. Oh, it just works like an
it
HTML
works
file.
as HTML, absolutely.
Oh, perfect.
So down there we got our line breaks, some more text. Okay. So yeah, if you know HTML, it's real handy. I'm really bad at HTML, so when I do use it, I basically have to Google everything, like how to change background color with HTML, right? And then I just put that in. So that works. If you look at my site, I do incorporate HTML in order to get the figures, like where I want them and the sizes and everything, like just the pictures. So it works right out of the door.
Great.
That interpret it perfectly. Let's see. Yeah. 3 little underscores gives us a little line break. There's a lot of stuff you can do to kind of stylize this and make it look the way you want. Okay, so there's my beautiful little line break. Let's see, what else? Yeah, that's really it. It's not, honestly, it's not too complicated. It's just a matter of getting into the habit of using this for reports. You'll find that it really simplifies fixing mistakes, right? If all of your report is in a document like this, you can just re-knit it, change things, change a bit of your code, and it'll generate a brand new figure the way you want it now in the same spot. There's no fighting with Microsoft Word trying to get things in the page where you want them or anything. You're just generating a nice HTML report. So echo equals false here. Hyperlink to some website. I'm going to wrap hyperlink in square brackets and then put a nice little link right there. So that's how you knit it. So there's my link. Google.com. Google.com not found. Interesting. Probably typed something wrong. You can do links to different sections of your page as well. Let's see here. So here I've got, not this. Back we go. Data course. Index at RMD. So on our site here, go on up. We've got this little table of contents, right? So you can click to week 3 or back to the top of the page. So you can incorporate those into your document as well pretty easily. I've just got little square brackets around that, and I told it to jump to week 3, and so it goes down and looks for a heading called week 3, and we'll jump you right there in the curly brackets. So all of this I just learned from looking at other people's markdown documents, essentially, along with this lovely cheat sheet. Okay, this is nice for kind of seeing how things will look out at the end. Okay, we got about 10 minutes left. Anything else about modeling you want me to run through or talk about? Because you're about to be doing it. Let's see here. Maybe I can do a quick analysis here in Markdown. So df is read.csv data grad school admissions. I'll go ahead and load my packages, library tidyverse. So grad school admissions. This is a binary outcome. True, false. So we will use logistic regression to predict. Echo equals false. So let's see here. I'm going to need to load DF. I'm going to play with it. Okay. So head DF. Then I'm going to, let's see here, admit GRE GPA rank. Okay. DF admit is as logical. DF admit, we want to change that to true false. Okay. So let's make our model. Model. GLM. Data equals DF. Formula equals admit as a function of GRE plus GPA plus rank. And then I'm going to say family equals what? Anyone remember? Been a few days. Family equals binomial.
Binomial.
Yeah. All right. So that's because this is a true-false response variable. Family equals binomial. So that'll build our model. And then we will add predictions. That's from the model R package, so I need to make sure to include that. Okay. Add predictions to DF using our model, and then pipe that right into ggplot aesthetics. X equals GPA, Y equals pred. Oh, I forgot up here. Type equals response, because we want it to be percentages. And let's see here. Color equals rank plus a geom smooth. Okay. Why didn't color equals rank work? Oh. Factor rank. I think that'll fix it. Yeah. All right, so now I can start talking about this. Looks like GPA is pretty important. Knit this whole thing, and it's going to ask me for a name. GPA, sure, whatever. All right, so there's my completed report where we've got the effect of GPA in predicting grad school admission. Okay. So that's assignment 9 for you. I want you to really explore this data set, try out a few different models, see which one is best, and use it to make predictions. That all needs to be done with code in a markdown document like this. Okay. If you want to include your code in the document, that's fine. If you want to bury it by saying echo equals false, that's also fine. But I do want to see the output, right? So when you're comparing a few different models, I want to see that you use root mean squared or ANOVA or whatever it is you use to measure your model's fit and how good of a fit it is. You need to explain what's going on using text. Okay. I want to see that you're thinking about your data, you're exploring it, you're comparing models. Tell me what you're about to do, then show me the output. Okay. That's what I've got for you for today. So go ahead and get to work on this grad school admissions. Make yourself a markdown, play around with it, see how you can get the text formatted, and I'll see you on Wednesday. Come with questions for Dr. Wall. He's on Hawaii time, and so it's going to be pretty early in the morning for him, so it's very kind of him to be joining. So don't sit there like idiots.
Thanks.
All right. See you guys next time.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.